So this is American Nurses Association. I know I've mentioned them before, but I just did a video explaining how they blocked me on Twitter. And that may seem like, oh, it's not a big deal. Yes, it is. I'm a nurse, okay? The free speech thing, yeah, you expect that. But I've not even had any people in the House like that are politicians that have blocked me. Not that they can't, but for them to put on this platform that we're going to block people, especially nurses, because they're not a private organization. This is everything they serve. They are part of American Nurses Credentialing Center. That's how a nurse gets a license. They are part of American Nurses Academy, Institute for Nursing and Research Education. They're part of an enterprise, a foundation, and then you can see here their revenue. Okay, and so they decide everything for nursing. So for them to block any nurse is the most unethical thing. But then I've had an experience with one of their, because they have 54, I don't know how it's 54, but they have an association that's directly tied to them in every state. Here, in my state, Illinois Nurses Association. The association is a professional organization representing registered nurses in the United States through its 54 constituent member associations. So that's everyone. The ANA is involved in establishing standards of nursing practice, promoting the rights of nurses in the workplace, advancing the economic and general welfare of nurses. How can that possibly be true when they want to block? Because they're blocking me because I've called them out that no nurse should be supporting transgenderism on children. It's unethical. They are a 501c professional organization to advance and protect the profession of nursing. It's started in 1896 as the Nurses Association, Associated Alumni, and was renamed the American Nurses Association in 1911. It is based in Silver Spring, Maryland, and Jennifer Menzick Kennedy is the current president. So they decide everything in nursing. I'm a nurse, just because, and this is part of the problem, they're magnet of nursing. They're, just another layer. They would say, I don't get to have a voice. They should get no more government funding. I'm sure they get government tax write-offs, and they shouldn't get anything. It's one thing to ban somebody because you don't like what they're saying, but you literally decide my profession and you want to cut me out of having a voice in it? So because they did this, and just in case nobody saw my other video, this is what they did. They blocked. You're blocked. So Illinois nurses, I'm going to say it again just because they did this. Illinois, because this is new, they didn't have me blocked before. Illinois Nurses Association 12 years ago was when I realized that the system was so corrupt and bad, and it's because of these people, at least for nursing, okay? It's because of this organization. And for a long time I thought, well, maybe it's just Illinois Nurses Association. No, they're all tied to the government. But they wanted, I worked at a freestanding psych hospital. That means it's a hospital, an acute hospital for psychiatric patients, but it's not part of a bigger hospital where they have other wings. It's just freestanding by itself. But it was all DCFS wards. We had voted Illinois Nurses Association union in. I was the first time nurse. It was my first job. I was in my first year of nursing. And I was a good nurse. I was a charge nurse on adolescent boys unit. But I was voted, and I supported the union, although I loved my job, even though I did see a lot of things wrong. I like that population because they're resilient. Working with patients, the kids like that, because they're looking for somebody to be, to guide them. And unfortunately, as I've said, the state system doesn't seem to want to do a lot to help these kids. Anyway, University of Illinois Chicago oversaw DCFS wards in psych hospitals. University of Illinois Chicago. So we had a manager, and she was the one that she got fired, she got let go, and then she wanted to help us, so she was the one that started pushing us to go to this union thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then I got voted on the bargaining team. So while this old manager was out, yet on our ears, wanting to push us into the union, in the meantime, they brought in a new manager, and she came from University of Illinois, Chicago, the very department that oversees DCFS kids in Illinois. They would come around a couple times a year, make sure you're doing like restraints right, or you're paid, just all this, just to, because they're all high educated and know everything. Yeah, well, one of the people on that team became the chief nursing officer. She was a Navy nurse, so was the one that had left, by the way, the one that was pushing us towards the union, just very ironic. Anyway. So they wanted to go after somebody on the bargaining team. There was only 2 of us. And so I got called down to the office. I didn't know anything about unions. We had just voted it in. There was no contract. And so I had never had any problems, never. And then the assistant to the chief officer accused me of something she knew wasn't true, because I trained with her. She just knew it. The hospital, it had 3 floors, but there wasn't, everybody knew everybody staff-wise. So she knew what she was, I mean, talk about a psychopath. She literally looked me in the eyes, and she knew what she was saying was a lie. And so I initially was like, I'm not tolerating this, and I resigned, which is what they wanted me to do. But then the union came and started emailing me, call me, why did you do that? Why did you do that? I'm like, because I'm not going to, this is not true. Nobody's going to make these accusations that are untrue. And believe me, there've been accusations like what they made at me to people on like the girls unit, okay? And they didn't do anything close to them. And there wasn't even any accusation made. And then I realized, oh no, it's because of the union, and the union said that's what it was, and that I shouldn't have went to the meeting without them. Well, we had just voted them in. I didn't know, or didn't stop to think about it. So they said, well, we'll fight it. So I did rescind the resignation. Biggest mistake I made, because it became a nightmare for like 2 years. And yet the worst part about this was once I rescinded the resignation, they took a 15-year-old kid, or 14, off of the boys unit where I worked, and for 2 days with his social worker in the chief nursing officer's office, grilled him, trying to twist his words. He wrote it down. He signed it. He said, this is what they did. The social worker even called me at home and confirmed it. They were trying to twist his words to make the case, because what they had accused me of, they knew was a lie. So then when I rescinded the resignation, they had to, hurry together to try to make the case. They never could make the case, but they put me through complete hell over it. More importantly, they put a 14-year-old kid through hell for 2 days. So much that when the second day after her doing it, he said, I know what you're fucking doing. If you come near me again, I'll fucking kill you. And believe me, you don't want a DCFS kid, because they mean it. And he was a good kid. A lot of these kids, they just need proper guidance. Everybody wants to write them off. I don't think it's fair to write all of them off. Most of them, it's behavioral stuff. So the nursing union put me through this, and I think in the end what it was designed to do was so that this hospital could close, because the nurses never did get a contract. But here's the thing. Where Illinois Nurses Association has their biggest contract is at University of Illinois, Chicago, where that chief nursing officer that did that to that kid, that did that to me, came from. So there's no way they didn't know who she was. She was head of that department. She was even a professor for forensic nursing there. They knew her. And yet never did any of them do the right thing by this kid. Fine if you want to you be shitty to me or throw me under the bus or do whatever you want. But to a 14-year-old kid, Illinois Nurses Association, the lawyer I had, no one was willing to do the right thing. That's the issue I have. And this doesn't surprise me, because this is how corrupt and sick this association, but there's so many like them, are. And they certainly shouldn't be deciding the standards of care for nursing.